All right, this is Salt City Counseling. Welcome back. Once again, my name's Scott Carter. I'm a licensed therapist here in the state of Utah. This video, I'm going to tackle something a little tough. I'm calling this video Healing the Masculine. Inevitably, I'd love to do a lot of videos on these topics. I would love for people to give me their feedback and their questions. It's a difficult topic. It's a challenging topic. And it's one that I think is particularly difficult and particularly challenging because we just have this huge war among the sexes between the masculine and the feminine and men and women, and what is positive masculinity, what is toxic masculinity, what is healthy masculinity. We get bombarded with all kinds of confusing messages. We get told what good masculinity is versus bad masculinity from people who have no idea what they're talking about. And I'm going to weigh in on it. It's on my mind today because I had a really good session with somebody who is struggling with this, because frankly most men these days they're struggling with their masculinity. They want to be good men. I am convinced wholly of that the vast majority of guys out there want to be good men, and they get a lot of false ideas and messages on how to do that, what that looks like. And all it does is make things worse for them and make things more difficult for them. And they end up getting frustrated, and they end up acting out, a lot of them. And so, again, I would like to do some videos on healthy masculinity and healing the masculine. And this is going to be part one of healing the masculine. I'm going to cover some basic ground here. If you're new here, please, once again, like, subscribe, share, help me grow my channel. I much appreciate it. I do offer coaching. I'm not able to do therapy across state lines, but if you'd like some individualized coaching where I give you objectives and goals and homework and ways to help you accomplish those mental health goals, those goals having to do with your inner game, right? The psychology of your personal game, whether you're a guy or a girl or otherwise, go check out my website, saltcitycounseling.com, and I'll put the link in the description below. So let's get into this. Let's talk about healing the masculine. And I want to say real quick too that I hear from people all the time that a lot of men exemplify the toxic masculinity type of behaviors, and but we don't necessarily talk about a whole lot about femininity either. I will agree that men are out of touch with what healthy masculinity is, but I don't think that women are in touch with healthy femininity either. I think it goes both ways, frankly. But man, we as guys, we hear it nonstop, don't we, guys? And so I want to make it really, really clear. I'm not approaching this topic with any sense of like scolding or shamefulness. And guys, we constantly hear the criticism. This is not intended to be critical. This is just intended to help give you some guidance to heal your own masculinity so that you can be the best husband, best boyfriend, best father, best brother, best son, whatever that it is that you can be or that you want to be. Because I do. There are good guys out there. I see them all the time. And I know that they want to be the best man that they can. They just don't have good guidance. They just don't have any good direction on it. So, I've got some bullet points. I'm just going to go off my notes. This is going to this is just going to be an introduction to healing the masculine. And again, kind of based on a really good session that I had today with a client about this topic, about this. I'm going to cover some of this today, okay? And the first thing I want to talk about is that men often don't do well in therapy. Why is that? I wanted to address that. And as a clinician, as a practitioner, I didn't always know what men needed or what was going on with men. I knew that I was missing something for years. And it was very, very, excuse me. I always make these videos after I eat and I'm a little bit, anyways, but for years I just, I was missing something. I didn't know what that something was. It was very difficult to get any guidance from, like, I've struggled to find good mentors. I've struggled to find good teachers, people that could help teach me and guide me into being a better practitioner, a better therapist. And even for years, I was part of a self-help men's group where guys would get together and they would talk about masculinity and becoming better men. And for years, I just knew that I was missing something. And that thing that I was missing, that I realized, is that men are really, really repressing their emotions, is that they are hiding a lot. They're bottling a lot of things up. They take parts of themselves and they just stuff it super, super, super deep. And I'll get more into that. That's going to be the gist of this video, the main thing that I talk about. But men, I think, don't do well in therapy because that particular element is not properly addressed. Frankly, too, I don't think a lot of men do that great in therapy because most mental health professionals are women. And this is a largely female-dominated career industry. And frankly, no offense, ladies, no offense, female therapists, it is quite challenging for a female therapist or a female clinician to help a man or a boy heal his masculine. They don't know what it's like to be a guy. They haven't walked our path. They don't deal with our minds, our psychology, our emotions, right? And so I think guys find therapy to be invalidating. I've talked to a lot of guys who feel like they've just gone to female clinicians who have scolded them, berated them, degraded them. Just, what's interesting too is like there's actually a feminist therapy model, and I still couldn't tell you exactly what that means other than feminist therapists take the stance that women are always right and that men are always wrong and bad. That's basically kind of there's no masculinist therapy. But all that being said, men just don't generally do well in therapy. They don't stay very long. They have this idea in their minds that they should only go to therapy if something is wrong, right? Sort of like going to the doctor. You don't go to the doctor because everything's going just fine. I guess some people do. I don't. But that also has to do with the fact that I have been soured by the medical industry and doctors in general. But that's neither here nor there. But men don't stay long in therapy. A lot of them won't even stay past 3 sessions. If a guy makes it past 5 sessions, that's usually considered a lot. They tend to think like, oh, I'm feeling better now. Like if they treat their symptoms, if they are able to effectively put a Band-Aid onto things and they can put their head down and keep powering through things, that's generally what they do. But my recommendation is for guys to go to therapy to heal the masculine, to find their masculinity and to heal the masculine within them. So that leads then for me into this idea and the fact that men repress their emotions. They repress as part of them. And what went well in my session earlier today was this gentleman who I care about a lot. I think he's a really, really good guy. He's just never had a good mentor. He's never had a good teacher. And he's just like every guy these days. He's gotten a lot of wrong ideas on what a good man is and what a good man isn't, how to be a good man or become a good man. And so think of it this way, guys. There's a part of you, right, that is just this raw, almost feral, I even call it dark energy, or I used to call it dark energy. I don't necessarily see it as dark anymore, though dark is it's like shadow energy, just meaning that there's parts of you that just seem nasty and cruel and awful and horrible, wild even. And the idea for guys is that they have to repress that part of themselves because if it comes out, they will turn into some sort of monster. And today, with this individual, we were able to talk about something from his past. We were able to kind of uncover what is going on with that shadow part of him, that dark energy or that shadow thing that's going on with him. And for a moment, just for a short moment, just a few seconds, I saw that come out of him. He had this bitterness about him. He was bitter and hurt and scared and angry. And I saw it in him. And here's the thing, is guys have this. They have these parts of them. And they feel like if other people saw these parts about me, they would reject me, they would abandon me, they would no longer love me. And frankly, in some regards, that's true. we do live in a culture, we do live in a society that does not make room or allow for authenticity, for transparency, for us to bring out the true parts of ourselves so that we can heal them and to integrate them into our whole self. We live in a culture of repression, of emotional and psychological repression. I call it the Great Repression. We are experiencing, sorry. When you get older, you might die from choking on your spit, just so you know. Anyways, to me, we are experiencing a mental health epidemic for a few reasons, and one of them is that we are greatly repressing these emotions and these parts of ourselves. And so along with this as well, right? Like, unfortunately, we don't have good loving relationships. Real love happens when each person sees the real, unfiltered version of each other and accepts them for who they are. And it's a very healing experience, right? But we're too busy criticizing. We're too busy. I hear this all the time. It bugs the crap out of me. It's really disturbing. Like, even married people will like, oh, you're a piece of shit because you this or because you that. Like that's not what love is, folks. That's not how you be in love. If you really love somebody, you say, look, I accept you and love you, even though all of those parts of you may not be shiny or neat or savory or easy to deal with, okay? Each one of us truly needs to be accepted and loved for who we truly are, even for those not so great things about us, okay? So most guys, what they do is they live with this fear that if you see this part of me, you will not love me, you will reject me, and you will abandon me. And we cannot heal the masculine as long as they function that way, or we treat them this way. That if you have this trait or that trait or this trait about you, like if you have a tendency towards anger, losing your temper, and or maybe you have a tendency towards violence, then we're going to reject you, and we're just going to label you as all bad. We're going to forget anything and everything that's good about you, or anything and everything good that you've ever done is officially null and void, and you are therefore now a bad person. And this is the stuff that we just subject each other to on both sides of the aisle. And it's part of the reason why we're having this massive mental health epidemic. We have to learn to see the good in each other, even if we think each other's behavior, even if we see people do things that we don't like or we disagree with. We have to learn to see the good in them. And so what men do is they repress and stuff it down. So today in this session, this came out of this client of mine. It just came out. I saw it. I saw that thing that he represses. And I knew that I was seeing it, and immediately I jumped on it. And I was like, I see you, dude. I see you. This is the guy I want to see. This is the guy that I want to talk to. I see you. I still care about you. I still accept you, even though you have this anger and this bitterness and this hurt inside of you. And he, right then and there, man, he said, this is the part of me that I hide from others because I'm afraid they won't love me if they see it. And I'm like, that's it, man. That is exactly what these guys are dealing with. This is exactly why we can't heal the masculine, because all these men are stuffing and repressing these parts of themselves that they don't want others to see, because they live under this fear that if other people saw this about me, they would hate me, they would reject me, they would abandon me, right? And again, unfortunately, to some degree, there's some accuracy to that. There are plenty of women out there who are anxious to win this war and be in control, and they will throw it in your face. That is sadly true. But if in order to heal the masculine, you cannot do it for them, for her. You have to do it for you. You have to bring this part out of you, and you have to look at it honestly, and you have to learn to accept yourself first, even though you have this going on within you. There's a book on masculinity. It's kind of an old school one, a little bit. It's called Iron John, and he talked about this. Iron John is like this old folklore tale about this wild man named Iron John, And he uses it as an archetype to talk about that all men have this wild man inside of them. And we keep it caged up because we're afraid that if we let it out, we will just become this horrible monster. And I'm not suggesting that we should just let the wild man out and just do whatever we want. Not even a little bit. I'm not even saying that a little bit. It's a matter of like taming it, harnessing it, making friends with it, and integrating it and becoming whole as a self, right? And so what you have to do, so here's your kind of your healing the masculine therapy assignment for this particular video, is to acknowledge what is in there, right? Acknowledge, recognize, and identify what exactly is going on there, right? And it may be that I'm afraid that, I see this part of me in me, and it's violent. It wants to be aggressive and it wants to be violent. And generally speaking, if that's true, which it is for a lot of guys, there's no disputing that, obviously. I mean, look how violent human beings are, right? But by recognizing this, you're less likely to act out in a violent way. If you repress it and stuff it, it's going to burst out of you and you're more likely to have violent episodes. Okay, the repressing part is what caused that violence to occur, if that makes sense, right? So, all that being said, I want to wrap this up. I want to wrap up this first installment of Healing the Masculine. Okay, guys, get in touch with those parts of you that you repress. Acknowledge that it's there. Shine some light on it. Just acknowledge that it exists and why you're afraid of it. Okay, and you can sit out. I talk about this all the time. Write it down. Write it down. Write it down. Write it down. That is one of the most effective ways for you to work through it. Okay, so that's part one. I'm going to wrap it up. That's part one of Healing the Masculine. Don't forget to like and subscribe and share and all that stuff. Ladies, if you have a guy in your life where you're like, oh, he needs to do that, I mean, you can share the video with him. Don't tell him what to do. If a guy engages in this work just to please you, it won't work. He won't get anything out of it. He has to do it for himself. Okay? If you try and compel him to do it for you, that's being controlling. And if you ask me, control is abuse. Every time. Control is always abuse. I stand firmly on that. Don't be controlling. Just believe in him, support him. Your job is to love him even if you don't like everything that he does or like everything about him. Your job is to accept him anyways. And his job is to do it back, of course. And if you have a relationship that doesn't work that way, you might be in a bad relationship. It's probably codependent. That's mostly what I see these days. Okay, I'm going to end my rant. Thanks again for watching. We'll see you in the next one.